Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of the Freshman 15 College Football Podcast with me, LP Cruz, alongside Tyler Moore, where we talk about the college football world in about 15 minutes. But not tonight, though. Tonight is a special big time show that we got planned. So let's just get right into it. No more intros needed. Let's introduce the co-host of the show, Tyler Moore. Tyler, what's up, man?
Not too much, man. It's last week was a big week for my Buckeyes. They came on top of Penn State, this week we got two absolute bangers.
Don't we, man? Yo, so I was looking at the show, right, and I saw that we're at episode 10. Ain't that wild though? Episode 10.
And
blown by.
Yeah, I mean, and it's easy to do this because we both consume a lot of football. And college football and talking college football, it's easy to do, and couldn't ask for a better co-host.
I appreciate you, man. Appreciate it for real. It's been a blast so far. We got a lot more episodes to talk about, I'm sure, but on brand for us. We had to kind of look back at last week before we look forward to this week. And so last week we had our Saturday spotlights, and I'll kind of take the lead here. So in my game that I took for Saturday spotlight was Kentucky and Tennessee, and the Vols are cooking. Like, we'll talk about the Vols a lot, as well as the other team on the slate this week. But watching that game, the first thing that I saw was, and it's been a theme all season long, and that's been Jalen Hyatt, Hendon Hooker. Like, those two guys are like this. And to start the game, I think the first drive, he had that big play down the sideline to Jalen Hyatt for a touchdown. And I think the plan for Kentucky was, let's kind of muck this game up a little bit. Let's run the football with their guy, Chris Rodriguez, that's a big, strong back, and they wanted to kind of get him involved. But I think what happened was, once that kind of dissipated and they made the mistake, which was the big mistake towards the end of the first half, the interception where they're up 20-6, and Danico Slaughter just levels Dane Key, pops the ball up in the air, and Juwan Mitchell takes it back the other way for a big game. Then to cap off that drive with another Hyatt to Hooker bomb, it kind of sealed the fate early for Kentucky. And Kentucky, without the running game, they had nothing left in them. And I think at that point, you allowed the Vols pass rush to feast. And it was just a rough night for Will Levis. I mean, sacked a bunch, 3 picks, held to 97 yards passing. He got smashed by them. I mean, he got smashed by that front, by the Vols. And I couldn't have been more wrong as far as that game being something to watch. It was a snoozer. Like, that was a Robitussin that put you to sleep. That was that was boring football, man. That was my Saturday spotlight. But I know you had one too last week, and you had Ole Miss and A&M. So kind of give me your rundown as to how that played out.
Yeah, so Ole Miss, A&M, like I said, it was a big game. Ole Miss is sitting on top of the SEC West right now, one game in front of Alabama. Texas A&M, they're in that same division, but they're trying to bring themselves back up after everything that's happened this season. So it's almost like, hey, this is gonna be the game to watch. Ole Miss came out on top, 31-28. The big takeaway for me is Ole Miss's secondary, not very good. They let a true freshman throw for 388 yards, 4 touchdowns, and they scored 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They actually went into halftime up 14-10, but they got shut out in the second and third quarter by Ole Miss. And what goes on there is, the big takeaway for me is Ole Miss to like counteract how bad their defense kind of was playing. They toted the rock for 390 yards. I think they had like 7 different ball carriers for 390 yards. And I think you're going to show up a play here. Zach Evans returned from injury, 10 yards a pop. And this 51-yarder that he just basically just truck sticks the guy. And that pretty much changes the complexion of the game there. But for Ole Miss, they have a showdown with Alabama. If you allow a true freshman to throw 388 yards against you, Heisman candidate Bryce Young is going to carve you up. So they have to get on their game, and they have 7 days to do it.
Yeah, man, that's embarrassing. 7 different ball carriers for 388. Yeah. Wow. So for us, right, we had our upset picks, and I've always said this with our upset picks. Like, we nail these down for the most part. Like, we don't really miss often with our spotlight or our upset picks. This week might have been a little bit different for both of us, I think. Maybe not collecting the Vegas money quite yet, but so I had my upset pick. I took the Pitt Panthers over the Tar Heels. And I think in the show last week, what I said was, it's a strong possibility that a veteran Pitt defense could confuse Drake May, who I think might be a true freshman, if not a redshirt freshman. And I felt like they kind of did. Like the first couple of drives, they kind of had him confused, where he was like scanning the field too long, reading the field left to right, took some sacks in the pocket. At that point, I think, okay, Pitt's got a chance. And even their running game with Abanikanda, he ran well. 120 on the ground, 3 touchdowns. And they were finding success with the running game by the play action, where you saw Jerry Wayne get hit deep several times down the field on the UNC defense. I mean, they had so much success hitting him deep down the field. And the game overall was pretty close up until late. And even when you saw Pitt leading by 10, you felt like, okay, it's only a matter of time. You got the UNC offense right on their backs. They were breathing down their necks. You can kind of see it. And of course, the turning point was the fumble by Abanikanda. It's 3rd and 1, and he fumbles. You know, he fumbles the ball, they recover. Then right after that, you have the touchdown to Josh Downs to Pitt, and left Pitt chasing that ghost. You know, they were never going to catch the Carolina offense at that point. They were down by 10. And so from that point on, you saw what happened with UNC. They got hot. They were scoring on just back-to-back drives. It was like bam, 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 bam. And still, we know how Pitt operates with Slovis. They're still kind of a limited offense. Despite having receiving weapons and threats, they're kind of a limited offense. And even then, I mean, that was pretty much a done deal. And I know you had a pick, your upset pick, which is fueled by haterade. You had picked the Gators over the Bulldogs. So walk me through that one.
Yeah, so, you know, like you said, it's fueled by haterade. Georgia, they're just a class above Florida right now. That first half of that game, all dogs, and you know it was pretty much a laugher. But the big thing that kind of stood out to me is Napier. He made the halftime adjustments. They came out. Florida came out and scored 17 unanswered. The final score was 42-20. So it's kind of a one-sided game, but just a fight that a Gators team showed. Kind of tells you they're in the right direction. They got good culture. He's going to get his guys in, and then they'll be back. So it's. They got the fight, but like I said, I thought Georgia was going to overlook Florida, maybe looking into this week, but they didn't, and now we're ready for a true showdown.
Yeah, and I think you're right about Florida. They're building the program. They do have some quality wins. I mean, that win against Utah is still going to be a big game for them as they move forward. And they've had their give and take. The loss to Kentucky, but they're on their way. So I agree with you. Now, for our segment, and I didn't even bother to ask you about the help because I think we kind of know where we go with this every week.
Yeah.
But who in the NCAA, who hurt themselves the most last week?
Yeah, I'm going to say the 2 ACC teams who were ranked pretty high. They both have losses to Clemson, Syracuse, and Wake Forest. If Clemson were to stumble, I think Clemson plays Notre Dame in the next few weeks. And Notre Dame, they just won one of their games. So if potentially they would have stumbled, they could have maybe dethroned Clemson. But that's kind of out of pocket now because now you're hoping for a Clemson complete collapse. But it's the other teams in the ACC.
It's happened before, but maybe not this time. I feel like we've been plotting on Clemson's downfall since Georgia Tech at the start of the season, but. It's funny because I took the exact same pick you did with Wake Forest, and for Wake Forest, it's kind of like what you talked about. Like they could have been that dark horse maybe entering the conversation because they had the 3 ranked opponents lined up back to back, and they could have planted their flag in the conversation for consideration. But by losing like that, getting your back blown out by Louisville, it makes no sense for them. Like you have Harbin, he goes out, he tosses 3 picks. You add another by Griffiths, and then they got in their way too much. Like I said, they could have snuck in the door, maybe crashed the party, like I used to back in the day. But instead, they're assed out waiting for a ride and waiting for Clemson to fall off. I mean, 8 turnovers, man. They turned the ball over 8 times, 4 picks, 4 fumbles. To that, I mean, you could set the Benny Hill montage music. Like, it's just, it's comically terrible. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but again, offensively, Louisville didn't have to really do much, even lift a finger. They did, don't get me wrong, they did, because both teams ended up with 400 yards of offense, and you being the better team, you should have won that game. And just for Wake Forest, I mean, they just had the ball greased up in Crisco oil. They just couldn't hold on to the football. Simple as that. So, yeah, who hurt themselves the most, without question, it's the Demon Deacon. So, when I like that, Pray for him, because that was horrific, man. So yeah, I won't even lie to you about that one. And then for this week, so what I wanted to do is normally we have our Saturday spotlight and then we have our upset picks. This week is way different. So you guys that are accustomed to our normal format of a 15-minute show and whatever, break barriers, breaking the rules this week. We have a big finale that you guys don't want to miss. So hang around till the end. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna move up the upset pick. So I'm gonna move mine up. I'll take the lead here first. We probably got the same game. I hope we don't have the same game again. I hope not. So I had picked Kansas over OK State. Yes or no? That's one you got?
Yeah, just because of how OK State played last week. They showed their ass last week, 48-0 against Kansas State. Deuce Vaughn, he plays for Kansas State, the running back. He's 5'6", weighs 176 pounds. He got lost in the sauce and they couldn't find him. And we make fun of Big 12 defenses a lot because they don't play defense. And Oklahoma State just showed us why last week. So I think Kansas is gonna. I actually think Oklahoma State is gonna kind of ride that hill down, and Kansas is gonna pull out one. Jayhawks.
I went with the same thing too, and the thought process was it's another Big 12 matchup, and Kansas, to start the season, they started off really hot, so they're kind of on the same slope as OK State. Like they were really hot, then they tapered off. And they've had a bit of a QB shakeup as well. I know we discussed it a couple times kind of in passing on the show. We had Jalen Daniels coming off strong, then he fell off. He gave way to Jason Bean, who also started off hot. And I mean, weird stat, but in the last 3 games out, Bean has exactly 16 completions every single game, exactly 16. So it has been a not so sweet 16 there for the Jayhawks. I think he has to throw the ball more than what he's been doing. I think he's a capable quarterback. He can handle it. And I think he's got the potential to light up that defense. I really do think he could light them up if he wanted to. And I think about the game with Texas a couple of weeks ago where Texas had it right there in front of them. They just couldn't take it. Just take it. It's right there for you. So offensively, I think it's all about with OSU, which Sanders shows up. Like which one shows up, and that's going to be the issue. But overall, I'm feeling what you're saying. That's why we both picked the same game, I'm sure. I think Lance Leipold, his guys, he gets that mean bean machine cooking. And the Jayhawks beat the Cowboys in an upset. Not our Cowboys, but those Cowboys in an upset.
Yeah. Last week Sanders was sailing passes. I think that was his issue. He was just high on almost everything. Yep.
So there you have it, man. But all right, man. So here we are, the big finale of the show, the Saturday spotlight. Look, man, we're not gonna bury the lead here. We know what this is about, and it's been building up for the last month.
Yeah.
Can we say month?
That's what it feels like ever since that Tennessee-Alabama game. Yep.
Agreed. 100%. So, guys, tonight, without question, the focal point of the show tonight in the major Saturday spotlight has to be UGA versus Tennessee, man. Just kind of lead you guys into what's going on. If you guys have not been watching and have been paying attention or the first time watching the show, this is the big one. And here's why. Tennessee is the #1 ranked offense in terms of points in the NCAA at 49 points per game. And I didn't stutter, 49 points a game, whereas Georgia is #2 in the country in terms of defense with 10 points allowed. So this is a super clash. It's like me putting the 2000 Ravens up against the Rams in 99. Like it's as you say, man, the unstoppable force, the immovable object. They're going to meet in the middle. They're going to clash right in the middle. And I can't tell you guys out there how many pro prospects are in this game. Jalen Hyatt, Hendon Hooker, Jabari Small, Jalen Carter. It's so many guys here, man. Ladd McConkey, Kelly Ringo. It's like if you were a scout, it's like popping into Walmart and buying everything in one stop. Like that stadium will be decked out with scouts. There has to be, right?
Yeah, all 32 teams. Yep.
It's got to be. And
maybe some CFL guys,
yeah. I mean, CFL guys, XFL. I mean, you name it. You name it. Like it. Ordinarily speaking, like these kind of games that you see where it's just a feast for scouts, it doesn't happen until like the CFP. So to get that in this kind of matchup, it just tells you how important this is. So I mean, I already kind of set the table for you, so I kind of let you take it from here. But in this game, and because so much to go over.
Oh yeah.
Pick one matchup that you're gonna have your eyes on, in particular during this matchup.
Yeah, and it's gonna be Hendon Hooker versus that Georgia secondary. They are a mean secondary. They play fast. They play physical. Will he be able to take over that game like he did in Alabama? They played in Knoxville, against Alabama. Will he be able to take over like he did there? That is the matchup for me. I know like Tennessee's defense, if you look at like a box score kind of thing, they rank pretty low nationally. But if you look at like the advanced stats, they're like middle of the pack. And I've never been so high on like Georgia's offense because I don't like Stetson Bennett. I just don't know why. But yeah, so that's the one for me. Like you said, they're ranked second nationally in points allowed versus points for. So here we go, clash of the Titans.
Agreed. And to kind of take the baton from you, my matchup was going to be the cornerback Kamari Lassiter against the home run hitter. And I talk about him every week, but Jalen Hyatt. I mean, the guy is fourth in the nation with 924 yards, so almost 1,000 yards this season already, and then most in the NCAA with 14 touchdowns.
14. Yep.
And I don't think anybody close. I think he's like leading the charge with that. So the Vols can run the ball too. Let's not get it twisted. The Vols can run the football, but against his front, like you said, you may not want to. But that big man in the middle. So the Georgia secondary, you said they're fast, they're mean, they're physical, but they are fairly young. So if Georgia, you want to slow down the offense, you got to keep Hyatt in check, and that means demanding a coming of age for these young players. And he may get some help with Malachi starts kind of rolling over the top, but for the most part, you're going to see it's going to be just them going up, Hyatt and Lassiter. So it's going to be a lot of that going on, and you hope for Georgia that the young boy's ready, because that's a big one. So contain Hyatt, you might have a chance. So there's that one. Now, to follow that up with, I'm going to ask you this question. You tell me what you think. Georgia wins this game if blank.
They stop Hendon Hooker from having a Heisman-defining game. So basically, I'm saying if he's going to win the Heisman, he wins it here. If he has I'm not going to say like a mediocre performance, if he has like just an above average, I think that Georgia team is good enough to still beat that. He has to have that Heisman defining game. We saw it earlier this year in Alabama. You never really see teams do that to a Nick Saban defense. He did it. Now let's see if he can do it here. If he does it here, he wins the Heisman. That's what I'm gonna say that right now. If he does it here, he's gonna win the Heisman. But if they stop him, it's Georgia. Georgia wins that game, holding him down.
So I draw a lot of parallels with games. And that's just kind of, I know I'm wired this way where I watch a lot. Even Hooker, right? Hooker being an ex-VT quarterback. You know that person that hates to see their ex happy with somebody else?
Yeah.
That's not me. I mean, I want this guy to have a great game. And you talk about the Heisman. I think that's a big thing, is the Heisman. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking about this last couple of days. And you said this, though, too. It's how he beat Alabama. I was like, yeah, that's an impressive win. But if he does it again to Georgia, it's like when Manziel torched Alabama for 500 yards with Mike Evans.
Yeah.
That was a defining Heisman game. Like, that's the one you won the Heisman with. And every guy has it. Every guy has that game. Cam Newton had that game where he went crazy with the crazy run that won the Heisman. Manziel. Hooker, out of nowhere to take the Heisman. I agree 100%. It's got to be this game, this opponent, and this defense. And I just think about Georgia back in the day when they had these high-flying offenses, and they went there and they just crushed them. Like, crushed them, squashed them. I think back to, I mean, this is probably unrelated, but back when the Hawaii days of Cole Brennan, it just like shut down their offense. But that's what Georgia does. Georgia on defense can be dream smashers. That's who they are. So I feel like this is the one. When I talk about, you said it before too, like just the clash of the Titans, that's really what this is. Like the magnitude of this game is so epic. You know, we talked about the game last week too, if you want to, Ohio State and Penn State. But no, this game here, this is the one. Like this is the pendulum swinger for the entire college football world. It's this game right here. So I do agree with you. I think it's got to be Hooker putting this team on his back and dragging them to the finish line, because if they don't, that defense will eat them alive.
Yeah, and to kind of go off of that, I forgot one thing. If they go stale like they did against Florida in the third quarter, where Florida scored 17 unanswered, they're in trouble. Because, you can't go stale against because we saw Alabama do it against Tennessee. They went stale. Tennessee went up big. Then Tennessee kind of went stale, and Alabama came back. So it was like a tale of halves. You have to play a full 60 minutes in this scenario, in this type of game, or else you lose. I mean, I know it's cliche, you have to play a full 60 minutes, but it really is, because
it's real.
Yeah, we've seen teams not play a full 60, and it's teams that you wouldn't expect to not play a full 60, and they end up losing. So, yeah.
No, it's real. I agree 100% with that. It's real. And the one thing that I thought to myself, as far as Tennessee will win the game, for me, you mentioned how the Tennessee defense can be a little bit shaky, and I'm not going to disagree with you on that one. The stats and the numbers don't say this, but I think in this game, if I were to answer the question, Tennessee wins the game if blank. For me, it's got to be Brock Bowers, right? Like, I feel like you got to limit Brock Bowers. Yeah. You have to. Like, that guy is a damn nightmare to deal with. And you think about the new age tight ends now in the NFL, the matchup problems that they create, mismatches.
Yeah.
He's the one that you create in the laboratory. Like, he's the guy, because the size, the speed, the elusiveness, and I mean the long speed. Like, the guy can take off, and they can do so much with him where he's, the bubble screen split out wide. Wherever you want to put him at, he's there. So, again, I talked about the scouts and people being there front row and center watching these guys as pros, but that guy to me is a first-round talent. If not one of those top 10 guys like a TJ Hawkinson who got traded this week also. He kind of fits the bill, and I think there's so many pieces to account for with the Georgia offense, aside from the quarterback that we kind of don't like. We don't love the quarterback that much. But it's not about the quarterback sometimes. It's about the weapons and the supporting cast. And for me, if you're Tennessee, that's public enemy number one right there on that defense. Yeah. Lock him down, take him out of the game, make sure that this guy, Bennett, has to find other ways to win the game. I think if you want to win this game, do not let that guy control the outcome. You got to stop him. Mm-hmm. So, with all that said, I'm going to ask you, with your gut feel and how you feel, who wins this game?
Okay, so this one was hard for me. I was thinking about it, and I think it's Georgia. Georgia is an 8.5 point favorite, but I'm taking. So this might be my upset. This could be my upset pick. I'm taking Tennessee. So Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt. You already talked about it. They are a force, and if this game gets into a shootout like they did with Alabama, with as good as Bowers is, and as good as that two tight end set that they run all the time, as good as that is, I do not think that Stetson Bennett can control that offense enough to go head to head with Hendon Hooker in a shootout. I do not think Georgia can keep up if it does indeed go full-blood shootout like we saw earlier in the year with Tennessee and Alabama. So I'm taking Tennessee.
So I'm kind of with that, except the one thing is, and I'm sitting there, and I think the Bulldogs take it, man. And I don't want them to. I really don't, man. I really don't. And I don't know how much your pick is fueled by haterade. Maybe it's like the coffee. It's like half and half.
No, it's really like this, but we'll get into that. This like soliloquy that I have like here in a minute. So.
No worries. But I do think that the Bulldogs take it, and I know Tennessee, they have a good pass rush. The analytics say that they're better than what they show in the raw box score stats. But the offensive playmakers and that Georgia defense, and especially the guys in the middle and Jalen Carter, like my stomach is talking to me and the gut feel says the Dogs. It's just, I feel like they've got a lot. You have Robert Leal too in the mix. I just feel like they can have enough success to force either short fields or a critical turnover. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be a very back and forth game, but I feel like that defense for Georgia has just one play in them that just kind of takes the wind out of the sails for the Vols, unfortunately. So I'm going to pick the Dogs in this one, and I want to be wrong. I do. I want to be wrong. But that said, if whoever loses this game, if you lose this game, if you're the Volunteers, if you lose this game and you're the Bulldogs, are you still in play for the CFP if you lose this game?
All right, so here it is. It's super tricky for me, and it should be for like the entire college football nation. So we start off here. I think we all agree that the weakest of the top four is Clemson. They're the weakest of the top four teams. You could probably say they're the weakest of the top six teams, right? So November 26th, we're gonna have a showdown because one of these teams is gonna lose. And so right now, Ohio State is number 2. Michigan is sitting at number 5. The winner of that game is basically going to be the Big Ten champion, okay? Because they're going to go on to play Illinois. So if things stay status quo right now, the winner of the Ohio State Michigan game, they are going to be. I'm going to say that they're going to go in and beat Illinois and become the Big Ten champion. So, and if they play it close, just like we've seen it before, does the loser of that game get a better spot over the Pac-12 champion, the ACC champion, or the Big 12 champion? Okay. Now back to your original question. Georgia and Tennessee, they both play in the East. Okay. The winner of this game is most likely going to go to the SEC championship game against Alabama. If Alabama wins out, they have a big game against LSU this weekend, and then they play against Ole Miss, and then they got like Austin Peay and then Auburn. So if Alabama holds out, okay, and then the winner of this game is going there. So then there's a scenario where if all three of these teams could come out of championship weekend with one loss. So whoever wins this game, whoever loses this game has an L. So Alabama has an L, and then let's say Alabama wins the title game. Okay, so if the game is as close as we're going to be, you're going to have 3 one-loss SEC teams, 2 of the top Big Ten teams. The stakes don't get any higher than this, And to top it all off, and it's kind of crazy how this all came back around, but you kind of say we almost see it. To top it all off season, we heard all B1, like an all B1G, Big Ten, all SEC playoffs stirring. It's like stirring the tea,
Yeah.
Because what we've seen from the beginning of this season is the formation of the super conferences. So, get in or get left out. College Football Nation, let's ride.
Wow. Well said, man.
There's a lot there. And like I said, this game is huge. And then the game November 26th, Ohio State and Michigan. Those are the 2 games that, like, if you want to do something, you're circling them on your calendars. Those are the 2 games that you're watching. This one, and then the one on November 26th in Columbus, Ohio.
Well put, man. Damn. You know what? I can't even follow that with anything better than that, man. That's a good closing monologue. Holy shit. Damn. Well, you know what, man? I think that's it, man. I think that's it. I think we sign off on that one, guys. Besides that, guys, any last thoughts, Tyler?
No. So I don't know if there's a thing for how they call it the cycle in baseball, or the Triple Crown, whatever they call it. But that player from Ohio State, the defensive end, JT Tuamola, whatever his name, I can't pronounce his last name. Sorry about that. He in this game Saturday against Penn State, he had 6 tackles, 3 for solo, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble. I mean, I don't think you can play any defense any better than that. I think that would be like running the cycle. I mean, he didn't score a touchdown, but for God's sakes, that's like, that's you can't play defense any better than that. So
if this was Madden, that's like the defensive player of the week.
Yeah.
Running away, like no problem. Like he's got the award. That's Micah Parsons, man. That's basically your Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I mean, Penn State had me sweating. On Saturday, I was sweating through the first 3.5 quarters. But then you think about it, like Penn State, they have a pretty good secondary, and then you like go back and you look. People say, "Oh, Stroud didn't play very well," but he was 26 of 33 for 354. So it's like it wasn't really that bad. They can't run the football right now, and that's an issue.
Yeah.
And they can't really stop the run. And Michigan's coming up, and they can run the ball because they have their own Heisman candidate in Blake Corum. So that's the one for a different time, and we're gonna do that one on the live show. But
it's coming.
This this weekend, the Alabama LSU game. Don't sleep on it. That's a big one. But like I said, this game right here. And then it's going to be another top 4 matchup with Ohio State and Michigan in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. So it's about to be a banger end to college football season. So it's going to be fun.
I'm telling you guys, if you guys have not hit that sub button, hit that like button. Matter of fact, right now, pause this video, hit that sub button, because you're doing yourself a major disservice not subbing to this channel for these types of long view looks at college football. So hit that sub button. Make sure you guys are coming back here to Stonehall Sports with me and Tyler. So once again, guys, thanks for watching. This has been, again, the Freshman 15 College Football Podcast. I'm LP Cruz for Tyler Moore. Peace.
Peace, man.